Facebook also, but I can't figure it out.
How to do both?
Yeah.
It was only giving. Maybe that's like the next plan. I don't know. We're live. This is weird.
Welcome everyone to From the Ground Up. I was about to say like ground bites or something there, I think.
We didn't do one of those, by the way, so we're going to have to do that after.
We'll do it after. Oh, yes. We'll have to drink enough to
stay awake.
Yeah.
But this is our first week on StreamYard because YouTube canceled Hangouts on Air. So it's just not gonna. It's gonna be different. You're gonna see us the whole time, and I have a feeling that's not gonna go well. We're used to when the guest is talking, you don't see us, and so this will all be interesting. But obviously, if you listen to the audio, it affects your life in 0 ways.
So glad you listened to this message.
Today, or what's our little updates? We will see you guys on Saturday at Havre de Grace.
Oh man, that's this Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, it's literally Saturday. We have Corns and Kings available on our website. We have Corns and Kings available on Morph Market.
Justin, those are fires. Amel diffused. Some of them have masks. A lot of the ones with the scream mask coloration have or pattern on their head are mask.
Okay, could have typed that to him.
Okay.
But yes, that's all our stuff. Do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, Theportcitypythons.com, all that good stuff. And Quick Bites, check us out on Facebook. And we're going to have some breeders on in the future too. I scheduled one at least, so look out for that. But today's guest, we had him on Ground Bites just a second ago, basically.
And had him on From the Ground Up forever ago.
Ooh, he was probably our second or third or fourth guest, maybe.
In person.
Yes.
Yeah, and he brought a snake to the in-person one, so he got big.
Which is the first and only time ever, actually,
that anyone's ever brought a snake to the So if you haven't guessed it, or if you didn't read the title, we have Bill on today.
Here he is. Did you like that dramatic pull-in? Now Bill's here.
I was hanging on every word. Melissa Joe, cheers.
Cheers. That's a big wine glass.
Looking forward.
I don't think you could look more retired than you do right now.
I'm celebrating a Monday night.
So what have you been up to? Now you are a full-time reptile breeder. Is that fair to say?
I'd say that's what I'm doing in my spare time. Yes. I mean, I wouldn't say it's, 24/7, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, whatever I'm used to working, but it's enough to keep me busy, bring a little income in. So that's what I've been doing. Vended a couple times since I left my practice, and so I'll be doing more of that. And as you do this big move, which just got me excited out,
So you're going on that crazy move, but what are you doing on the radio? What happened a couple weeks ago?
Oh, yeah.
What?
The ESPN thing.
A couple weeks ago. Oh, yeah. Did you see?
Oh, you're acting like it's not a big deal. Yeah, everyone saw it.
Oh, man, I thought it was cool. I mean, that's what I do, like, as I'm walking around, hanging out with the snakes and doing whatever I need to do in the morning. I've got usually, and not sports nut, but they're on at 10 o'clock in the morning. And so to that ESPN show, the Will Kane show, because he's from Dallas and he likes the Dallas sports teams. So he just happened to not be on that day. And I just kind of caught out of the corner of my ear. They started talking about snakes, and they kept talking about snakes. And then they got kind of snotty talking about snakes. And that's when I just said, all right, fuck it, I'm calling. Then I called like 2 times, got in, and they like immediately wanted to talk to me until they didn't want to talk to me. And then they cut me off.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you drop off the call or did
they cut you off?
I'm 99% sure the producer cut me off because I had 4 bars. No doubt.
Well, that's amazing.
But it was worth it. I got, and I tried to explain.
I mean,
to
it
the
was, yeah, you got to explain it.
Explain about the snakes and explain about us, right? We're not all, just, well, tonight we're cuddled up in our apartments talking about snakes, but not all the time. We have other interests, and we're like, normal people for the most part.
I think if anyone is the antithesis of that, or
of
the embodiment of normal, it's you. So I'm glad you could be
you
the
were the
face.
one to
or at least you can at least say that you're a doctor, so that makes you normalized.
You didn't want to be in?
Talking about catfish and then the snakes. Yeah, Bill's a good representation.
I know a lot of good people that would represent our community. I was just happened to be the one that was.
Did you notice any like random followers or people reaching out to you after that? Yeah.
I picked up about 50 Facebook friend requests that day, and then I think a lot of them have dropped me since. But a little bit of increased activity.
But that's fun, though. Just to say that you had the opportunity is great.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. A couple of people messaged me and said, God, you sounded like so calm, and you weren't nervous. And, well, I do a radio show too. I'm not going to be intimidated by ESPN. I'm not going to invite them on my radio show. I promise you that.
Well, what is up with retirement and GTPKeeper radio? Is there going to be an uptake in that as well?
Doubt it, because as I've become busy, Buddy has become more busy. So I think we'll probably, and to be honest, we kind of like the duration where it's at. Every couple of months is good for us. It suits our listeners, I think. We're very narrow, like you guys, unlike even Morelia Python Radio, rocking the show. I noticed you have a Phoenix Reptile shirt on, and I do have to tell you, I did order. You did on one of the shows, and I did order my Theportcitypythons t-shirt today, as a matter of fact.
Oh, well, nice! Thanks, Bill. Because I did not buy a Phoenix Reptile shirt. Some guy came over my house and gave me one, but
I know. Guess what shirt I got?
Snakes and beer.
That was top 3, but wasn't that one.
Probably Chondro Snub.
Chondro Snub.
Yeah, how could I not remember that one?
But you're the other side of the snobbery. You're the designer snobbery, the mix everything together and get pretty colors type of snobbery.
Chondro Frankenstein t-shirts, and that's the one I would have bought.
No, I mean that's a fun one to be. I saw your update of the plague.
Yeah, so I 2 animals this week from 2018, 2 of my home. And since you brought it up, I've got 2 animals outside that I'm going to show you real quick. These are both 2018 animals. They are animals from the repeat pairing that produced the sickness. That's Jaeger, Wamena locality type female. And so I posted this animal today for the first time. This is Epidemic. We'll see how much.
Unfortunately, the video quality isn't loving it today.
Yeah, I don't know if you're having a
The
tough
video
time
quality.
getting internet outside or what's going on, but yeah, you can't really see it, unfortunately.
All right. Well,
We must adjust.
can you?
You have bad reception. That's why you get cut off all the time. It's these
Was
poor
I
reception
getting cut off in
issues.
Was I getting cut off in the episode?
No,
All right,
no,
if
it's
you
fine.
wanna-
That's why I'm saying maybe you got to be inside and not look so leisurely,
Why don't you?
like
why
you're
don't you
having
talk
a good
amongst
time.
yourself? Why don't you talk it? I'll move inside.
All right, sounds good.
Perfect.
Thanks, Bill.
We're going to do this. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. You're going to hate me. There's 2 fruit flies that are driving me.
No,
I don't even think they're fruit
meaning
flies.
like no, they're full flies.
They're full flies.
Full flies.
And they are just like swarming.
House flies, probably.
Swarming above the computer. Of course, now they stopped. Now that we're talking
but
about them.
you also like just straight up get up.
I
and
can't, because if
try to
not,
eliminate them.
my eyes are going to be like this the whole time. And especially since people can see me the whole time, I don't want to just be like this. And I will be. So,
yeah, no scratching anywhere. No.
Wow. Dan just said 2 kids told Bill what to do. Are you calling us kids, Dan? The kids? Oh no.
Well, it's to the benefit of all of us. Whoa.
No, we can't have it lower. No. No.
We have an audio version of this, right?
Yeah, and you can cut all of this out.
Oh, okay. I guess I can do that, can I?
Yes, you can. Very easily.
Okay. Sorry, YouTube people, then.
Well, they just got to get used to all the things. And Darren Watson was talking about fruit fly traps. We do have them, but someone is bad at replacing them as often as they should.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to get a little fruit fly.
Yeah, but those are full ones. Okay.
Bill,
he is back.
Welcome back.
All right, I'm inside. Let's see if the quality's any better of the video, because these animals are pretty cool.
Can we make them bigger?
Different?
Nope. Hold on. Just make you bigger. We can see it much more. It's still not awesome, but we can definitely see it much more.
Okay.
So remind me again, what pairing was this?
So this was Jaeger bred to a Wamena type. This was the pairing that produced the sickness.
Gotcha.
And that was 4 years ago.
Oh wow! What is your oldest green tree you have currently?
I've had that Wamena female was the first, maybe the second that I ever got, and she was an adult when I got her, and I've had her 10 years.
Whoa!
So she's probably 15 to 20, if I had to guess.
Those stories are always fun. How'd you acquire an adult female?
It's not that hard to acquire an adult female green tree. The problem is it's a big risk if you do it. A lot of times they don't settle in well. So it's not that hard to acquire one. Almost all of them will be long-term or not even long-term imported animals. So it's always kind of a risk when you get one. But she worked out well. The blue Cyclops that I got, she was very similar story, although she was in captivity for a long time before I got her. It's still a risk anytime you transport and set up an adult, especially female, and then try to breed her. I mean, all those things are risks. And so I tell anybody, a lot of people want to get an adult green tree female and then breed her. And that's a recipe for disaster. You got to let her settle in a minimum. I tell people a minimum of 12 months. Wow. Get her and just don't mess with her for a year. And maybe breed her the next year. Yeah.
Okay.
And were those the 2 animals that really started your green tree collection?
Yeah, those were the top. I got a couple animals between her and then Jaeger, the father. But yeah, they were pretty close to the beginning of kind of my collection.
And then how soon after that did you start breeding?
My first breeding was probably 7 years ago, and it was 2 Aru locality type animals. That was my first pairing. And then they were actually my second year to produce chondros. And I was talking to somebody today. I lost a lot of those babies. I lost like eight.
Wow.
She laid a nice big clutch. She had 23 babies that hatched, and I lost 8 or 9 of them. And so I just keep thinking how many sicknesses I lost that first,
Yeah, but you can't get that lucky right off the bat. That's not fair.
That's not fair to the rest of
Dude,
us.
I know it wouldn't have been fair, but
You gotta stop for a little bit.
I'm a greedy person, so I always have to think about like what could have been.
So that's amazing. So you were pretty successful off the rip, though, as far as the breeding part goes.
All things considered, I was very successful / lucky.
And you hatched them as well.
Right, not just breeding them, hatching them too.
Hatched them, and then the triple triad is getting the babies established. Breed them successfully, get fertile eggs, incubate the eggs successfully, and then get those babies established. There's lots of chains.
Would you say that those are all equally as difficult, or is some more difficult than the other, vice versa?
I don't know. It's pretty close. I get excited when I see them lock, but I don't get that excited. I mean, because so many things can happen. She could not go. She could slug out. Egg can go bad. She can get egg bound. I mean, I just don't get that excited when I see them lock. I see them lock a lot, and then I start seeing her act gravid. Then I start to get a little more excited. When I see a female ovulate, I get real excited. That's like, once you get a female ovulate, I think a good ovulation, I think you're about 50% of the way there.
What does an ovulation look like exactly in a green tree?
It looks big. I mean, they can be variable. I know Mark, one of his females, ovulated this year, and he really had to go by the pictures to tell. Like he missed it. I mean, he took a picture of it. He goes, I think she's developing follicles, but she had ovulated, and it just took us looking at some pictures. But then I've had some girls where I was concerned that they were going to die because the ovulation was so big they could barely hang onto the perch. They just looked terrible, and you just have to close the door and walk away and say, please don't die.
Wow. And so you're not feeding or doing anything at that point?
They're all off feed at that point. Usually it's, they've stopped eating or I've stopped feeding them, a month or months before they ovulate.
And then what are you doing I know that the lay box can be a tricky situation. How do you ensure that she lays eggs properly and everyone's safe?
Yeah, that's a good question. And people do it different ways. Gary Schiavino, he doesn't even have a lay box. He just will remove all but the very bottom perch, fill the bottom of the cage with sphagnum moss that's like 6 inches deep. So if she happens to drop off the perch, there'll be something soft for her to drop in. But I personally will remove all the perches and just have a very small water bowl because they're dumb enough to lay their eggs in their water dish. And, just see how they do in that egg box. And I have never locked a female in her egg box. I've had a couple females where I wish I had, because they will literally lay the eggs on top of the egg box. And, there's even a chance that they can roll off and hit the floor, be damaged. I know Buddy Buscemi, he locks his females in the egg box when they get close. The problem is you don't always know when they get close. I mean,
right. You don't want to lock them in there for long or.
Yeah, for days and days or whatever. They're real inconsistent after their ovulation and after their post-ovulation shed when they'll lay their eggs. And a lot of times they'll just miss that shed. So then you're really, sometimes it's hard, it's hard to know.
Is there anyone who you've heard who leaves the perches in during that time? And I feel like there'd be risks to that, but I really don't know.
Nobody that I know that has had long-term success leaves their perches in. I mean, sometimes it can just happen and you don't know. She's gravid and she lays off the perch. But I know certainly more than a handful of times where they just drop from their perch and you come in and there's just a bunch of freaking broken eggs on the bottom of the perch.
Gotcha. So yeah, you definitely wouldn't ever want to leave those perches in there.
No, when you know she's gravid, and if you're paying attention to your animals and you've got a little experience, you know when they're gravid and you know when they're close, and it's just time to get those perches out, or certainly get the higher ones out.
Right. So that they're close to the ground or close to the substrate, so that even if it's if it drops, it's not dropping far.
Exactly.
And then even when they do drop them, are they often erratic, or are they doing like classic beehives around their eggs?
They can be both, but they're more erratic than, say, the ball pythons. Ball pythons, when they spit out an egg, it's usually for a reason. It's usually, at least half the time they're non-viable. But green trees they'll spit eggs out that are fine. So they're just a little more erratic.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, I was having this discussion with Patrick Holmes yesterday. He came by and we were talking about how he really thinks, especially the designer green tree females are not as good mothers as the locality types. Much more likely to do stupid stuff and not keep them wrapped, and so yeah. I don't know. It's something that I haven't really been privy to, because I've really only ever bred one designer green tree, and come to think of it, she was a pretty shitty mom. She's the one that laid on top of her nest box and didn't wrap like half the clutch.
Wow.
So maybe there's something to that. I don't know.
Well, what is the distinction between do you happen to know the northern and southern species as far as localities go? Like which one is which species and all that good stuff? And
well, it seems like it's always evolving, because now they got Azura and Viridis, so now there's at least two distinct subspecies of green trees, and a lot of people think there can be up to 5. Like a lot of people think Biak is going to come out and be a separate subspecies, or Rue is going to be a separate subspecies. But I'm not a real great resource information on the locality stuff, because I just don't work with it a lot. I've never been to Indo. But basically there's a mountain range that runs across Indonesia from east to west, and that's what separates the northern from the southern locality animals.
Right. And I know, just because, go ahead.
I have 2 egg questions.
Okay. Sorry, I got off the egg thing.
Yeah, I wasn't ready.
No, either was I. I just got sidestrapped.
Sidestrapped.
Yep,
Sidestrapped. Do you notice a difference in the eggs between any of the localities, or like the northern and the southern?
Most of the localities that I have bred have been northern girls, and I haven't really noticed a big difference in the egg size. I mean, they're pretty consistent. I'll just say that usually the smaller the clutch, the bigger the egg, which just kind of tends to make sense anatomically. You get a big clutch. Yeah, more room in there. You get a big clutch. I've had 18 eggs, 20, 23 eggs, and they're going to be small. Even in the largest, even in the big girls that you breed, the eggs are going to be really small.
Would you prefer the smaller clutch, bigger animal? Is it easier to feed, or is there no consistency between that?
There's no doubt it's easier. Like my very first clutch, it was a roux to a roux, and I think I got 7 or 8 eggs. They're big eggs. The babies came out big, and they just fed like champs. I was like, man, this green tree stuff's easy. What's everybody talking about? Every one of mine ate like the first time I offered it, and I was like, man, this is awesome. And then the second year, my second clutch came, I had 23 eggs, and that was a disaster. That's the clutch that I lost. Like I lost at least 8 of those babies, and it was because of my lack of experience dealing with them. It's very uncommon for me to lose a baby now due to feeding. I've lost one due to a prolapse issue. I've lost one that was just a super tiny runt, and I got it to eat. And I think even though it was the smallest mouse pink that I could find, this thing had literally just been born. And I fed it to it, and it ate it, but it was dead the next day. I think it was just too big of me.
Now, have you ever tried maternal incubation?
Hell no. No way. After what I just said about the chondros, Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, they're too crazy. They're gonna do too many weird things.
I can imagine.
Are you out of your mind?
They cannot be
People
trusted.
do that, right? I mean, the females are probably Skeletors when they get out of it, but I mean,
they do it, and I think it's the coolest thing. I think it's more common in carpet. Carpet guys will do it and have really good success, and I think it's so cool to see a picture of little baby head sticking out under a wrapped, carpet or green tree. I can't even remember the last time I've heard of somebody successfully maternally incubating creatures. I know it happens, but I can't think of it.
You could be the next
First
one, Bill.
Or you could be the next one.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
Yeah, you're the representative. So we deem you the person to do it.
And I'm sure you'll be locked in an egg box.
If I did that, Buddy would kill me. First of all, if he found out I was maternally incubating chondro eggs, he would fly to Texas and he would kill me. I can't do it for that reason alone.
So would it be deemed irresponsible to do so at this point? I mean, you might as well just artificially do so, or
I would never say anybody who's irresponsible to do it. I think I think you could learn a ton from it. I think it would be really cool. I just think if you want to get, higher success yield in your clutch, you're going to artificially incubate.
Right. And what temps are you incubating at?
87, 88, right in there.
Do you keep them actually in the same incubator as you do your ball python eggs?
Everything. Ball python eggs, carpet pythons, green trees. Yeah, they all get in there at that 87 to 88 range.
Different maintenance level on the green tree eggs than the ball python eggs?
Different what?
Maintenance level on the BP eggs versus the green tree eggs?
They're all eggs. They're all the same to me. I put them in there and try not to think about them.
I don't believe you. They seem harder.
It's true. Ask anybody, and I've incubated plenty of different eggs for different people, ball python eggs and green tree eggs, and they all get the same treatment. They get put in the same tub and put in the same incubator. And I think literally I was talking with Mark Hager about this. I incubated, now I'm incubating his second clutch of the year. If you can I incubated his while he's traveling to Germany. That's where he is right now. So I'm incubating his second clutch of eggs, and I'm taking care of his newborn neonates while he's in Germany.
So I hope he brings you back something good from Germany.
Better bring me back a good beer, nice German beer. But anyway, he was saying that it was just so he didn't have to think about the eggs every day, because he said if they were in my house, I'd be in there just like I just know him. He'd want to be just opening up that incubator like all the time and looking in the egg box, and you're just setting yourself up for disaster to do that. Just put them in there, leave them alone. I candle them when they're first laid, but then I never touch them. I don't pick them up. I don't recandle them. I just try to forget about them. The only thing that I make sure is my boxes are pretty tight and they can run pretty wet. So I make sure there's not condensation on the lid. It's usually not an issue until you're several weeks in. So there's really no reason to even open the box for the first couple of weeks.
And then when you do see that condensation, like what are your steps after that?
Yeah, there's a couple things you can do. I just take a paper towel and I wipe the lid and, put the lid back. Buddy will actually tilt his tubs so the condensation will run down the side and not drip directly on the egg if it builds up. So
that kind of scares me. I don't know. Thinking about eggs and tilting just makes me nervous.
A little bit. Yeah, because, I just use water substrate. And if you tilt that tub too much, you're going to get water from the bottom coming up, on that one side that's down. And you certainly don't want water settling on the bottom of your eggs.
And are you a no air holes guy?
So this is what I do. I put air holes in, but then I put tape across it. And then so the first 2-3 weeks, it's essentially completely sealed. But, that egg box is like a dynamic chamber, right? It's changing. And as those babies are getting more developed, it's an exothermic reaction. I mean, they are releasing heat. And with that heat comes moisture. So usually about halfway through the incubation, I'll take that tape off and let more ventilation in the box.
Gotcha. Interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, and I guess people will want to know what kind of incubator you're running.
Old school, just a Snapple machine that's been converted a couple times, and I give full credit. A good friend of mine, he's part of Phoenix Reptiles. His name's Logan Murray. He's not a big chondro guy. He's got several chondros, but he is my bread and butter with a lot of stuff in that incubator. He has worked through and really helped me just really get it keyed in. And I was talking to Mark, because Mark Hager just got an incubator. He just got a hot box incubator. And I thought it took me at least 3 breeding seasons to get my incubator dialed in. And that's, luckily I was incubating ball python eggs then and not green tree eggs, because I lost ball python clutches due to just incubator mismanagement.
So what kind of things can you do to avoid problems like that? Like, what kind of issues did you see in the beginning, and how do you mitigate them?
I had inconsistent heat. I mean, I right now my incubator will run a 0.5 degree is the variation that I see. When I first had it set up, it was running 2 degrees, variance. And I just had a tendency for that incubator to run dry. Even if I was using, 100% water for the substrate in the boxes, my incubator would run dry. So I had to put a large pan of water in the bottom with a fan just to keep the ambient humidity of the incubator, 50 or 60%. That enabled the egg boxes, to get that 100% humidity, which is what I really, really like when I'm, incubating eggs.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, your incubator seems like just as much, it's something that you need to dial in over time, not necessarily something that, you set it and forget it, at least when you're just building your own. But I don't know. I've never been lucky enough to have an experience with a commercial incubator or any of that fancy stuff.
Lucky enough.
I don't know how that works.
We just don't need it.
Maybe they're dialed in from day one. I don't know. But obviously the prudent thing to do is to have that thing up and running for an extended period of time, and not just your incubator, your egg boxes too, because the design of your egg box, 2 egg boxes can act completely different in the same incubator, depending on the size, the ventilation, the surface area, all that stuff.
And what sizes do you typically use, and do they differ from green trees to things like ball pythons?
I tend to use a smaller box for the green tree eggs, but they have the same characteristics. They're very well sealed boxes, whether it's the tub where the lid sink in, or you have latches on the outside of the tub that can really get a nice, firm sealing of the box.
And in Texas, do you have any issues with, like, here we're talking about our fruit fly thing, but you have any pests or anything going on that you need to mitigate?
You lived in Texas. You know the drill down here. Big flies, would be my issue. And obviously, if something goes bad in the incubator, it doesn't take long just for the gnats, to get out of control. So got to be pretty vigilant in making sure you get any dead eggs out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for how many days do they typically take to hatch out?
About 50 days, 49, 50 days is what the book will tell you. If you incubate them at 87 to 88 degrees, I found that to be pretty consistent.
So that's actually pretty fast for a python.
Yeah, a little bit faster. The ball pythons will go, another week longer than that, or 10 days sometimes. But yeah, I would say on the relative timeline, it's pretty quick.
Okay, kind of different question. Over the years, do you have like a kind of ratio in mind that you want to keep, like your ball python breeding to green tree, or like are you always trying to keep it balanced? Is there always more green trees than ball pythons? What has been like your thoughts over the years?
I've got way more mini ball pythons than I do green tree pythons.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Which is funny because you're known for
the green
trees, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because I think, Joe, we addressed this on the little episode that we did last week. It's just the niche that I've fallen into. I tend to produce, I say a lot is relative, but maybe 300 ball python babies a year, but they're all like low end, mid end stuff. It's a lot to take care of, but they're like the lower end or kind of mid end spectrum of people that, price range and what's like rare or whatever. But then, the green trees, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. I produce designer stuff, and, I feel lucky. This year I got 2 clutches, and that was a good year. I've never had more than 2 clutches in a year of green trees, but I will routinely, do 30, 40 clutches of ball pythons.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just the people who we see clutches from consistently year after year with green trees. You're already like high level status. Even if you hatch out a couple of clutches consistently year after year, that's still impressive.
Yeah, it's really weird, and obviously it's a numbers game. It's just more. It's more difficult to take care of. I can take care of so many more ball pythons in the same space that I can green trees, and they're just easier. Not necessarily easier to keep, but they're a lot easier to breed and to get babies established. All of that. So the green tree is just kind of it's a numbers game. Patrick and I were talking that to have a pretty consistent year of producing a clutch or 2 clutches, you're looking at maybe keep 12 females and 4 males. That's kind of the number game that you're looking at to consistently produce green trees.
On the ball python side, are you trying to increase your breeding? Or are you at your max, trying to decrease?
I'm probably pretty close to where I want to be right now. Obviously, this year I've had more time on my hands. But I don't want to overburden myself, right?
Right.
Yeah,
300 is already.
And I do have some help too. I've got, some guys that are part-time guys are very loyal to me, and they're just very good to me and help me with the weekly maintenance on the ball python stuff. So it enables me to really hone down on the breeding and the pairings, and even with the ball pythons, they're more work to sell. You've got to take good pictures. You got to post them in different places. You got to event shows. These green trees, they're sold, before I even put the pair together. People are, if you ever put this with that, can I give you a deposit now? The ball pythons, you got to hustle it, which I don't mind. I like that part of it, but it's just different.
But do you love when you're like, green tree person just wants to give me their money and doesn't want to haggle me or ask me annoying things?
Yeah, that's cool.
When you're like,
but I think it's like you either choose to do the competition in the beginning where it's like you're competing just to get the snake to breed, or competing with a million people to sell the same snake. I feel like no matter what,
it's a competition.
You're doing your work either at the beginning or at the end there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know. There's just so many ball python people that are afraid to like take the plunge into green trees. They think it's such a foreign species they've been successful for maybe decades, doing ball pythons, but they're just so like a timid or afraid about getting into doing green trees. I don't know why exactly.
I can't keep ball pythons. I suck at them. I'm terrible at them. They just don't agree with me.
How is that even possible? I don't
know. It's the live feeding. It's the
non-feeding.
Yeah. It's a lack of feeding.
Yeah, I mean, we've just built up this not love for them.
No, I mean,
I haven't. I've never even kept ball pythons, and I'm just like, nope, no interest. I think we're just too spoiled with corn.
We're on easy street here.
Yeah.
I hear you. I mean, it's funny, and there's people that are like that with green trees too. Eric Burke, who I value as one of the most experienced keeper of snakes probably in the United States. I mean, that guy's he's grown up with it. His dad, was a big reptile guy. Eric has kept a bunch, of different species. He's very knowledgeable, but he had 2 green trees die on him. And he's like, that's it, I'm done. He thinks he kills green trees. Like, you don't kill green trees. Sometimes things happen.
We get these things in our head. Yeah, we get.
Well, I don't kill green trees, but I may kill a ball python.
May.
It would take a long time to kill a ball python, I think. But
well, I mean, I'm not trying to push ball pythons on you or your audience. I like them. I think it's a great first time snake. It's a gateway snake, for a lot of people. So
everyone's got to have at least one ball python.
It's sometime in their life. That's how
it works. Yeah.
Now, I mean, obviously you've been breeding multiple years. Are there still new things that you've or like things that have never happened before during the breeding process, like with either the eggs or with your females? Like for us this year, some of our eggs started developing this weird green tint. It's not like they were going bad. It wasn't like moldy, but it was this like radioactive like green. Algae, it was weird. And so, Travis Weinman, we like texted him and I was like, what is this? I'd never seen it before. Oh, shit. I'd never seen it before, this weird greenness. And he explained in really high scientific words that I don't know. But yeah, have you noticed like new things happening, even though you've been breeding for so long?
It's funny you mentioned that. I have a ball python clutch right now. It was just laid 4 or 5 days ago. The exact same thing, except they came out almost this greenish tint.
Really? Came out that way?
Came out that way. And I've seen that before, the ball python eggs. And they, at least in the past, they've done fine. But yeah, it's just definitely not the pearly white like you're used to. These had a definite greenish hue to them.
Yeah, I mean, ours came out fine. They were fine. It was just, it's weird how, I don't know. I'm like, if you do the same thing, why do different things happen? Like,
Yep, I know. I don't know. I really don't. I can't give you a scientific explanation, but I've seen that. I did have my very first baby green tree prolapse this year, and I've been super lucky in that respect that I've had an adult prolapse before. It was an older adult male that I got in on a trade, and he never established well, and he was probably dehydrated and he prolapsed. But I had a baby prolapse for the first time this year, so I dealt with that. That was a good learning experience. But again, you wonder, I've kept these things, the exact same way for many, many years, and, fed them the exact same meals at the exact same time, and, from the exact same source. Everything's exactly the same, except to have a baby prolapse. So, why did that happen?
Right.
Just don't know.
Yeah.
But that prolapse in baby green trees is, I was very, very lucky to have gone and produced as many babies as I have and not have to deal with a prolapse.
Well, I'm 1 for 1, and I have one, but it survived. It got surgery, stitched it up, and still kicking. But yeah, and I think my issue was I fed a rat crawler, which I didn't know that rats were kind of a no-no for green trees, even though some people are like, whatever, do whatever you want. But I've since abstained because when that prolapse happened, I found like undigested, rodent in there. So I figured that was, it couldn't digest the rat for whatever reason and popped it out. But, I've heard that happens, but I don't know 100% sure. I don't know if you have more to add to that.
I do, actually. It's funny that you mentioned that because I do feed my large adult females rats on occasion, especially if I'm trying to put some size on them before I breed them. Their diet primarily is mice, but I'll feed a small rat, on occasion, maybe 1 out of every 4 times. But I've got one girl. In fact, it's the Wamina, the girl that produced the sickness. And I fed her a rat one time, and it was the exact same thing. She didn't prolapse, but the undigested amount of rat that came out of her was like, oh man, she's never getting another rat again. So I think there's, obviously there's some of them that don't tolerate it. I don't know why.
Weird. Did you see what Dan said in the chat? He says he has an IJ that prolapses every time he feeds it.
Really?
I'm like, wait, Dan.
To me, that's like an anatomic defect.
A cloacoplasty.
Listen to you using the big words.
You can put him to sleep for us, Bill, and then I'll do the cloacoplasty.
You must have been an OB-GYN in your former life.
I could not even ever see Joe ever doing that.
Well, I don't. No comment.
No, you would not be.
Wow. Okay.
I'm
Let
sorry.
everyone know.
Maybe your past life self. Did you? I already told you. Mine. I'm sorry. At a total side note, did you hear about the OBGYN who delivered someone else's baby right before she had her own baby?
I did not hear about that story, but it doesn't surprise me at all. I know of an OB-GYN that delivered a baby on the same day that she had her baby.
Women are so awesome. I've just been really proud about this story for the last 4 days. I've been telling everyone. She literally was
It's not fair. I don't even get a chance to get pregnant in the first place.
Oh,
and
do
then
you want that?
Deliver another
do you
baby
want
at the
that
same
chance,
time,
babe?
so
I will.
If
you find a way, I will give you that chance to have our baby. Good. Please get that chance.
I'm okay.
Melissa, what about if she would have delivered a baby and then on the same day delivered her own baby?
That's what she did. Well, she didn't deliver her own baby. She had it. But yes, that would be crazy. Sorry. I'm like, wait, no, that would have been next level. If something happened, she had to deliver her own too. That would have been truly crazy. But I mean, it was still really close. She was getting ready to be induced. And she heard the nurses next door talking to this woman whose OBGYN wasn't there yet. And so she just literally put on a back to her gown, put on some boots in her hospital gown, went and delivered this baby, and then came back and was induced. And
that's crazy, right?
It's so crazy. And you guys just get to sit there.
Sorry, man. I didn't choose it. Well, thank you guys for listening to The Stork's Nest. We focus on birthing stories and the heroes around it.
Sorry.
Thank you all for listening.
I just really like that story.
Speaking of birthing, Bill.
Birthing. That's not.
Or hatching.
I'm not having any more kids. No way.
Not going to bring them to the new location.
Not going to happen. Your turn. It's y'all's turn.
Yeah, we just talked about that. You see how close we are to that.
Yeah. So, do you cut your eggs?
There you go. Nice transition.
Talking about babies, do you cut your eggs?
Trying to change the topic, huh?
Precisely.
Yes, I will pip my eggs. Usually, it depends on how far the clutch has gone. If they've gone to day 50 and I see 1 or 2 pip, then I pip the rest of the clutch. If I'm a couple of days short and one sticks its head out, I might wait 24 hours and then pip the rest of the clutch. But yeah, I definitely pip the green trees, the ball pythons. Nick Mutton had a very interesting post about there's, recently been this big push to not cut your eggs. It's, let nature do its thing, all that kind of stuff. And I thought Nick Mutton had a really good post about the reason why you do cut eggs. And if you have enough experience and you've pulled enough dead animals out of the eggs, then you'll see the reasons for cutting them and cutting them properly. I've seen people that have taken, half the egg shell off, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about making a small slit in the egg, so when they're ready to come out, they can get that head through. We'll go back to the OB-GYN similarities. I refer, it's like a C-section, right? I mean, we do C-sections when the baby doesn't come out, and everybody knows it's supposed to come out, and it puts the mother and the baby at risk. You do a C-section. To me, it's the same thing.
Right. So you're just, in general, you are increasing your chances since you are in captivity keeping snakes in boxes. You want to give them the best chance.
Exactly. Right. What do you guys do?
We tend to not cut, but corns are just different. I think we've cut when like 2 have pipped and already come out of the egg, and then there's others who are like, wait, like this is.
We caught a weird one like 3 days out. It was actually the rest of the eggs were stillborn, and then the one was actually, I wasn't expecting it. Like I cut it out of the egg because I was like, I'm looking at all these stillborn babies.
Right. We thought all the rest was dead.
And so it was like the 4th one I cut. I was all over it. Because I'm like, oh, damn, well, all these were dead, so this one's going to be dead, too. But I was still luckily careful enough. But it came out, and it was alive. And I'm like, is that because it's a late bloomer or because it didn't have it? I'm not going to say it didn't have an egg tooth. I don't know. But luckily, we were able to get that baby.
Got one. So 2 had come out, and, had pips come out and everything. And, okay, now we need to cut the rest. It's been too many days. And we cut them, and then there was I think it was, the last or close to the end. There was that one last one that somehow was still alive in there.
I think y'all saved a life. That's what I think.
We did. That was great.
Saved a life.
Lifesaver.
You lost a shit ton.
You killed a bunch too. I know.
Yeah. Save the one, or what is it? I don't know. Never mind.
Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it goes. But we don't take a complete Darwinian stance to it, to where if they don't get out themselves, they didn't earn it to survive. Yeah, none of these are meant to survive anywhere. They're really these things are fucking purple, man.
Yeah, they were never meant to be.
No.
I think it's probably different for different species. Like I would never tell you, Joe, cut corn eggs, because I don't have any experience, hatching out corns. So I think there can be a difference in the species.
I think there's also kind of a cultural thing, subcultural thing, where we as corn snake breeders, we have so many of them that often they don't care about 1 or 2. So I don't think anyone thinks about cutting, or people aren't worried about
what
morph it is. We're not so
anxious that we have to cut it. I think also.
I think that's a great point, and to expound on that, I'll do the same thing like with ball pythons, and I get a ball python baby that doesn't eat or won't eat. Maybe I'll assist feed it once. If he doesn't eat after that, he's going in the freezer. But I will work with the baby green tree. I will work with it, and it is what it is. It just is what it is.
So talking about getting babies started, what are some of your methods once that baby is hatched out and good to go? How long do you wait? What's your process?
Yeah, and how long do you wait before you separate them?
That's a good one.
I separate, the ball pythons, they all come out of the egg. They all go get in one tub, and they just all stay together until they have their first shed. The green trees I separate right away.
And what's the reason behind that?
The reasoning is primarily because I think it's really important to hydrate baby green trees before they have that first shed. So I will use, the only substrate I'll use is water, just like a millimeter of water on the bottom of the tub, and then I put a coat hanger in there for the perch, and they perch as soon as they come out of the egg. But what I will often do is usually every other day I will remove that perch and I'll just set it in the bottom of the tub. So it's essentially soaking the baby And so I think hydration is really important for baby green trees early, in their life. So that's one of the reasons that I do it, because it would just be very hard to, soak 6 or 8 or 10 or 20,
Right.
baby green trees in the same tub. So that's one reason I do it. And I will probably initiate feeding trials a little bit earlier in green trees than ball pythons. A lot of people have gone now to they'll even introduce prey item before that first shed.
Really? I feel like that's very taboo.
I know, I did too, and I'm still kind of mixed on it. But usually I will wait. I'll give them 10 or 12 days, and if they haven't shed, then I'll go ahead and offer, a meal. I'm not real aggressive with it, but I'll offer it. They don't want to eat, they don't eat, and I'll try again after they shed. But that's kind of my practice.
Yeah, I always wonder if you can get a baby to eat right from pipping. I never wanted to do it.
It just feels wrong. I don't know why.
I've seen pictures of someone doing it once.
Oh, of course, there's out there.
I think there's some species out there that do eat right out of the egg. Nothing that I work with, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll say I think I can get a Corsic to do.
Do live birth ones eat too? I mean, I know nothing about that, but I feel like they would be different.
I don't know. Bill, have you ever bred boas?
Never.
All right, good crowd to ask that question.
I know, sorry. Well, y'all just know about snake stuff in general, and so I thought maybe we need to get more live birth people on, because I really don't know much.
You're all about live birth tonight. You're really on a one-way track here.
She keeps coming back to it.
Yeah, let's settle down.
You guys have had guests on, and we've had guests on that are very broad in their reptile and snake knowledge. I'm very narrow focused in my knowledge. I mean, I'm just,
So you're saying all the books you have about snakes are only about green trees?
No, I wouldn't say that, but I've not kept a lot of different species of reptiles. I've just kept a very small number.
You haven't though. You have rough scales. You have short tails.
Yeah. Still, compared to a lot of people, that's pretty narrow focused, I think.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I mean, those are animals that people have not had much success with, or are not very common in the hobby. So it's like one pair of rough scale pythons is worth 100 ball pythons, I think, in the hobby itself. In a passing on the genes of rare animals. I mean, it's such a nice thing to have these animals available to the general public. To me, I feel like it's so just awesome.
Absolutely.
And whether it's U.S. captive born and bred green tree pythons are the same way. Those aren't even the demand's so high. You guys could probably never produce enough at this point.
That's the way it is right now. And I mean, I hope that change. I think we're getting better at the husbandry and the captive reproduction of green trees, every year. I mean, I see more and more becoming available, and I just hope that continues.
Is that something to where back in the day were people more secretive about their breeding practices and stuff like that? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think, one of the great things about the green tree community is they've, for the most part, been very transparent. And that's not just techniques. That's, animals that they've produced, or, they show this great animal but don't want to show you what the parents were. I see that a lot in the ball python community. It just pisses me off that people, aren't as transparent or willing to share information until they've pretty much guaranteed that they've held enough back where they can make money. And then that's when they'll start, releasing information. And that pisses me off.
Yeah. It's an interesting juxtaposition in the way it goes. I mean, but do you find yourself being more, because you're super social in the green tree python world, but I don't see even if we have Carpet Fest, there's only a few ball python guys hanging around. It seems like much more community based in a sense.
Yeah, because I'm not really, I don't know, it's just different. I don't feel like I'm really linked into the ball python community, and I think part of it is just because it's so big. The ball python community is so big, and the chondro and even the carpet communities, it's just smaller. Again, it just is what it is. There's advantages and disadvantages about it, but I like my niche in the ball python community. I'm just kind of like under the radar. I like to produce eye candy to people. It might be their first snake or their second or their 10th, but they're still real enthusiastic. A lot of times it's their first snake. And, I like that. That's what I like to do.
Right. And as far as green tree pythons go, did you happen to go to the first or the ICAST rather in, what was it, Maryland or so?
Yeah, I went to ICAST, and I think that was in 2007, I think. And that was really, the first time that I had carpet pythons at that time. I had just gotten my first green tree python, or I was thinking about getting a green tree python. But it was the first time I ever just like got on a plane by myself. I didn't know anybody that was going to be there. And I said, I'm just going to go and see what this is all about. And I had the best time,
So you were not friends with Buddy or anyone at that time?
Didn't know any of those guys.
Oh.
Didn't know any of them. I think I did have a green tree. I had bought one green tree, and it was actually a green tree python from Christian Stewart, and he had donated it for a Rico auction. So he donated this animal, and I purchased it in the benefit of Rico Wadler, and so I knew Christian, and I went up there, and so I met him, and then he introduced me to a bunch of people, and that's where I met Buddy and so many other people that I just now I'm such good friends with. And it was after that experience that I really got on board with these Carpet Fest things, because, it was just so cool.
And how was it as like a new guy coming in? Did you know the importance of people who were there? Like, say, Rico or Trooper Walsh or someone like that. Did you understand at that time?
Not really, to be honest. They had a tribute to Rico, Trooper, Eugene Bissett, and one other guy that I can't remember his name, but he was another pioneer in the green tree community. And at the time, I didn't really understand the specialness of that. I mean, I did a little bit. I was more just in tune with how cool everybody was, and you got a name tag on, and you could just walk up to anybody there and just say, "Hey, I'm Bill Stegall. I just got my first green tree python. It's awesome. What do you have?" And from there, they're on. You know how those conversations go.
Yeah, and I think it's something to the fact that you obviously put your money where your mouth is. So people were like, "This guy's serious. He came from Texas to come here." Right. So like, even though he only has one green tree python, he's he's doing his thing.
The good thing for me at the time is that I was heavy into carpets. I had a lot of carpets. I'd produced a lot of carpets, and I think that was kind of a natural progression going from carpets to green trees. So I could talk to people there that kept green trees and also kept carpets. So that was kind of a nice bridge.
Right.
But that was a very special event, and they've talked about doing ICAST too, and everybody's afraid to do it because they know it won't match the first one.
Right.
I think it could. Why don't they think you would match it?
The people that were there, Rico was like, he's the godfather of chondros, and he's no longer here. And, I think that's part of it.
Is there a godfather of chondros?
Well, Trooper would be like the other one, right? And Eugene.
Yeah. Yeah, but Rico was, and I didn't know Rico. I met Rico at ICAST for the first time, and I shook his hand and I said, "Hello, it's great to meet you." And then I never talked to him again because there were so many people that were there that had known him for a decade that they are the ones that wanted to talk to him and essentially say their goodbyes, because he did not look very good at ICAST. So I didn't spend a lot of time with him. I just didn't feel like it was right. But he was special not only because of his knowledge about green trees, because of his willingness just to share that knowledge. And he would talk to anybody with any level. Even though this was the day before social media, he got the same questions, that we all get now. I want to buy a blue green tree boa. Can you send me a list of the 10 that you have available? He would get those questions all the time, and he was the one that would answer them all, and he'd answer them all respectfully. And, everybody felt like they could always call Rico. And so he just very, very unique individual.
Sorry. Keep going.
No, I mean, I just, that was one of the reasons I think it would be really hard to duplicate it. And it was just not expected to be as big as it was. I think a lot of people that went didn't expect. It just had everything. It had the scientific aspect. It had people, Daniel Natouche flying in from Australia, Nick Mutton coming in, from the West Coast. And I mean, there were some big hitters there, from founding members to front line on the scientific aspect of all this stuff. It was seminars, symposiums, display animals. Shalimir, who's Brad Waffe's wife, came with an incredible art display. I mean, it was just like it was like a carpet fest on steroids.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I feel like now there's a bunch of those events, though, in a sense, is that there's smaller versions of those events. There's carpet fests all over the country, which I think is just
all over the world now.
Yeah,
True.
There you go. Last weekend,
I'm sad
right?
there was no American representation at it, unfortunately.
I didn't know that.
There wasn't, but next year.
Eric wasn't able to go.
But next year. But you're right. It's like all these little carpet fests kind of, are trying to bring the big people out and the influencers in it, and in your own little way.
I think that like the community's just stronger, I feel, than ever, as far as people getting together, people getting face to face, and people talking, and people helping each other out also.
I agree. I think it's stronger than it's been in a long, long time. I agree 100%. You're right. The number of carpet fests seems to be growing every year, and the attendance just keeps getting bigger. And it's just so refreshing to see in this day of social media and podcasts and all these shows that you can actually get out and interact with a human being.
Yeah, and I think it's that, I don't know if people realize that, at least when I started, things like Morelia and green tree pythons, that kind of thing, green tree pythons were a little bit more in the front because obviously how they look. But as far as the people who were keeping them, and that was a rare subsection of the hobby that that's a very small niche group. So the fact that you're doing things around the world is just mind-boggling.
When I entered the community, I felt exactly that same way, Joe. I was like, I had kept ball pythons and produced some high-end carpet pythons for a decade before I got a green tree, but I was still extremely nervous entering that community. That was back in the day of the MVF, where you had go in and introduce yourself. And so I made an introductory post, and I wanted to make sure there was no misspelling or all my capitalization was right. And, I think a lot of times people put that pressure on themselves when they enter the community, but I think it's grown so much now. I think, and maybe it's just because I've been in it for a long time, but I don't think there's that same level of I don't know if intimidation is the right word, but I think a lot of people feel very freely coming into the community now as first-time green tree keepers, or they want to become, even better, they want to become a first-time green tree keeper.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side of that, there's more people willing to help people trying to become a green tree keeper breeder, or a keeper breeder. So, I think we forget that people used to hide away and not really interact with each other, and if they did, it was a one-on-one basis. There wasn't much a gathering of the minds per se.
Yeah,
the internet.
Yeah, for better or worse, and I think we talked about it. last time we talked, I think as far as passing of knowledge goes, it's for the better. I mean, I think, I said, I think 90% of the stuff that I see on Facebook in the green tree groups is good information. 10% of it's not, but.
And that's going to happen anyway.
Okay. I don't know how to frame this question or if it really makes sense. Do you feel in the green tree community, there's a tighter connection between like hobby science and real science? We talk a lot of times about the difference.
Green tree guys are pretty particular.
But okay. But I feel like because it's such a specialized thing, the hobby science is, I don't know. I feel like it would be more close to the actual science.
There are some real green tree python nerds out there as far as like knowledge in locality knowledge, lineage knowledge, that kind of stuff. These names like I do, like Patrick Holmes is and I'm totally serious. He knows more about the lineage of the animals at my place than I do. Like he comes and he goes, what was this? And I go, David Newman produced that. And he goes, what was the pairing? And I'm like, I can't remember. It's 6 years old. He goes, that must have been Diablo Tinley. I mean, he just spouts out all this information. He knows more about my collection than I do. And people like Forrest Fanning are the same way. He can talk about an individual animal that was produced, 20 years ago by Trooper. And then there's other guys like Harlan Wall who, he's a walking encyclopedia about locality stuff. So
and I think that there are in green trees more than many other of the other species.
Maybe. I mean, what do you think, Joe?
We saw the biggest polarization between the monitor guys, I feel.
There
are guys that are only into human animal interaction. There's guys who say never mess with your animal. There's guys that focus primarily on the feeding diverse foods that they give the animals. There's people who just focus on building the best cages, bioactive soil, and they're all like competing ideas, and they all have their own ideas on how to do it. That's like the most interesting.
Interesting.
But I think the green tree guys are weird how that there's northern species, southern species, and Daniel Touche did all the research, and there's possibly even the Australian animals. Maybe they're different also.
Yep.
But you guys don't care about the species or hybrids, or you'll breed them all together. And I'm sure there's people that do care. But I feel like it's funny that's a little bit more lax, it seems, in the green tree people.
Oh, absolutely. It's there are very few people that will get on and try to bash designer animals. It doesn't happen, but it certainly does in the carpet community. I mean, I rode that battle, and that battle still happens there, for a long time, because when I was heavy into carpets, I was the same Frankenstein there that I am with green trees. I wanted to produce the most gnarliest, thing that you would never find in nature. That's what I want. That's what I wanted to do. And, there's a section of the carpet community that is no bueno with that. You find it a lot less in the green tree. Now, there'll be some people that say, I just prefer locality stuff, like Gary Schiavino. He wants to really hone down maniquories. He loves to work with the maniquories, and he wants to make the absolute best, captive produced maniquories that he can. But he doesn't care that I produce designer green trees. Now he's pissed when I produce Carpondros. That's going over the line. But he doesn't care that I've produced designer stuff. And, now that we have found these different races, the northern, the southern, the Australian, the Biak, Aru, all these things are going to, now you're really, kind of poo-pooing the whole purity thing, right?
Yeah. And what is purity but just our own? I mean, it's in captivity. I understand if it obviously made a lackluster animal, but it sounds like it just makes shitty mothers of your animals. But
if we were doing this in a conservation effort, like there are no more Biak green trees in the world. We have to collect them in captivity, and the 5 that we have left, we must reproduce and repopulate the island of Biak. Yeah, that's one thing. That's not what we're doing.
Which I feel like maybe that's where the Morelia mindset comes from a lot, because they have Australian animals. There's a finite. It seems very finite. So once you mix it out, you can't undo it. You guys have a steady, amount of imports consistently. So
that's true. That's true. But the point is we're all.
Yeah, you better not start crossing that stuff apart. I'm sure there's other lines that exist.
Yeah. But, the bottom line is that 99% of us are doing this for our own enjoyment. It's not a conservation effort to repopulate some species that's getting ready to go extinct. We're doing this for our own entertainment, and do what you like. If you like, locality stuff, do locality. If you like, pure carpet python, breedings, do that. If you don't, it's like Eric says, you do you.
Yeah, that's exactly
it. Do you.
Keep on convincing yourself that a green snake is better than a blue, black, and red one, though.
They're called green tree pythons for a reason.
Yeah. Not in your
They're supposed to be green.
Yeah. Yeah, not if you have anything to do with it, though. Which is
damn right.
Which is that's really the best part about it, right? Is that you're able to make your own interpretation of what this snake should look like in a way. That sounds weird to put it like that, but it is your own art project in a way.
It is. And listen, if green tree pythons were supposed to be black, I'd want to make the one that was green. If they were called black tree pythons, I'd want a green one. That's just the way I am. It's the way I'm wired.
Yeah, and then as a seasoned keeper sees it, and they're like, it's weird because a normal person will say that green one's the best, and then a seasoned keeper sees and goes, whoa, those come in that color? Yeah. And then that's when you got someone hooked.
I think a lot of people look at the sickness and say, whoa, it comes in that color.
Yeah, that's true. Pretty much anyone,
no one's going to say a green one is better than the sickness. I would get their head checked if they did. There's just no way.
A lot of the people that I just show my animals to, they love the high yellow of the green trees. Like, they'll look at the thickness and go, oh, that looks really cool. And then they'll scroll, and then they'll see the blue cyclops grow. That's pretty. And then they'll see like a high yellow. And really? That's the one they're really drawn to.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are initially drawn to the babies, right?
Right, the babies.
Oh, absolutely. The babies are
different.
It's like a highlighter.
But you can't even connect them because the red baby. I love red green tree babies. I like that over than I like the sickness as far as just looks. But it's not going to be like that.
If it could stay,
right? There's just no way. So there's no point in even getting attached to something that's going to change. So you get attached to the adult. Don't date babies. That's weird.
That's the second most common email that I get after, do you have any green tree boas available? The second email I get is, do these red babies or even the yellow ones, do they stay this way? Just what it looks like as an adult.
And unfortunately, you can't give them the greatest news.
Fortunately not, but what's cool is they take several years to go through that change. And watching the change is really fun,
Mm-hmm. So I think it's always been interesting, just watching your babies, and then through Instagram, I can see which ones you're holding back, and it seems like you is the dark. I didn't want to say that saying. Is the darker the cherry, the sweeter the juice? Is that the
the darker? No, I should know this.
But basically, are you picking the most dark? Are you picking the most dark red babies? Is that your method?
Yeah, the darker babies, the more reduced pattern babies, and anything that's just odd. That could be a super heavily patterned animal. If the rest of the clutch is, let's say, medium pattern, you got a couple that are super low pattern, and you got one that's just super high pattern. Well, I'll hold the things that look different. I mean, that can be good and that can be bad. I've kept back some awesome animals, but I've released some awesome animals too. You know, I mean, I think there's a little bit of rhyme and reason to it, but I wouldn't exactly say that I've just knocked it out of the park on the animals I've held back, because I've released a couple that more than a couple.
Was that
Oh.
the animal? Is his name Ike Leitner? Is that? Did he post one of the babies?
Yeah, Ike's got one.
That's the one.
Yeah,
he has one baby that was crazy looking.
I told him to name that one Regret on my behalf.
Is there any that you bought back?
Nothing that I've produced that I bought. Purchased back?
Or been given back?
No, I don't think so. Not that I can recall.
So the regret wasn't so strong that you wanted it back.
No, because I tell Ike and I was going to say, I tell Ike and I've told other people, you know, for me, that's a great form of advertising, really. People know that I'm going to release killer babies, and I release a lot of my babies early compared to a lot of the other designer guys. Other designer guys will keep their animals till they're 18 months, and I'll release mine as red or yellow Neos. So
what I did find interesting is like that animal that Evan ended up getting. And it's like, you know, that yellow neonate with the red down the back, like kind of acting as a stripe.
Yeah.
Like how often does that happen?
That's called a blaze. It's called a blaze animal. And certain parents are known to throw blaze animals. And that was actually a yellow baby it was one of the few yellow babies that the sickness clutch came out of. That's predominantly red clutch. So like the first time I paired those animals, I got 20 red and 3 yellow. The second time I bred those, I got like 14 red and 4 yellow. But all of the yellows from that pairing have that what's called blaze appearance. And that's just that really cool red stripe, dorsal stripe down, you know. And it's a very, very cool looking Neo. It usually doesn't translate into anything as special as an adult. It's just cool to have as a baby and watch them change.
Yeah, I mean it's just an awesome one of those things where you're like, what the hell's going on as a baby? It just catches your eye.
Of all the baby pictures like I've posted on Instagram, I think the most whatever they call them, likes or whatever, was a blaze yellow.
Really? Yeah, I mean,
and those things get picked up and they get shared by like these people that have 100,000 Instagram followers, like Animal Planet or something. You know, that's the animal that when they saw my page, that's the animal they picked to share.
Interesting.
Wait, so I don't know if you ever like announced this out, but did you end up having anyone film at your place?
Yeah, that was an interesting story. So it was actually going to be the Jaeger Bizkit clutch that hatched several months ago. A company that was contacted or contracted by National Geographic in Australia contacted me because they have not been able to find baby green trees hatching in the wild, and they wanted to produce this 1-hour documentary on pythons, and that's a shot that they wanted to capture. And it got word back that I had a clutch that was due to hatch, you know, in the appropriate time where this production was going to happen. And so they wanted to send somebody from Washington, D.C., a photographer down to film this thing. And so we communicated back and forth for several weeks, had everything set up. He was going to come in, he was going to build a little studio and essentially try to recreate this, you know, hatching of these baby green trees. It was really weird because this guy was like going to stay in my house for like 4 or 5 days, just literally up there behind the camera. I was like, "Are you going to set up like a night camera with a timer on it or something?" He goes, "No, I'll be there for the entire time." I'm like, oh wow, that's dedication. And he goes, no, we do this stuff out in the wild all the time. This is going to be a piece of cake if I've got like AC and I can go to the bathroom, Go, okay, whatever. So he was supposed to come down. I'd even he asked me to purchase some stuff from Home Depot. So when he got down, he could build the set. I mean, it got down to the wire. And then 2 days before he was supposed to come down, he got sick, couldn't get on a plane. And there was not enough time to get another photographer in from DC or wherever they were going to come from. So to answer your question, the project got canceled. I was actually, it would have been super cool, but I was kind of relieved because it would have put, I think, the clutch at somewhat of a risk to take them out of the incubator, put them in this kind of man-made naturalistic thing where we'd set up this thing. I had a heat pad underneath it to try to keep it at appropriate temperature and all that kind of stuff. But
out comes the Blaze Baby designer conjure out of this naturalistic.
Exactly. They're gonna put some rubber snake on top of the clutch, and have a little baby sticking out.
But that's one of those things that it's cool that you are able to produce these snakes, and weird things come to you like that, like media opportunities or people filming your collection, or obviously you were on the radio and all these different things. It's funny how many things come to you. When you put it yourself out there.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go.
I wasn't retired then.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how long ago it was. Actually,
that was right about the time. Yeah, I had not retired, but I was getting close then.
Gotcha. How on a scale of 0 to 10, how much, or where would you rate your retirement life so far?
Probably about a 20.
Is that going to go up more when you move?
I don't know. I hope so. The place that we're looking at, we're really close now in closing, is going to be a great place. It's got a great building on it already. It needs a ton of work, but it's like 1,400 square feet, 2-story. Be an awesome snake facility. And then the house is great. And I think I told you.
Yes, I like how that came first. Not where you're living, but where the snakes will be living.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the whole house.
No way, man. No way. I'm like Eric Burke when he was looking for a house. He was like, all right, I want to see the basement first. And the realtor's like, what? I want to see the basement. He'd like, look at the basement. All right, we're done. Let's go.
That's pretty cool. Snakes come first, I guess.
Gotta come first.
So what were you looking for in like a snake room in particular?
Size, primarily. It had to be the right size. These buildings are insanely expensive to build now. I had no idea how much it would cost to build a 12 to 1,500 square foot building that just had lights, plumbing, and air conditioning. It was unbelievable. So luckily I found a place that already had a structure on it. It's this particular room was used as a workshop. It's very dirty inside, very raw. I need to sheetrock it, paint it, air condition it, but it's got plumbing and electricity, and that's like 60% of the battle. But I was shocked how much, you have to put into a building.
Well, we were talking to, we had a monitor guy on who built his own facility, and that was about $160K. I saw Dave Kaufman just recently went to someone's snake building. Theirs cost about $100K. So, and that's a pretty bare bones building.
It is.
That's all the stuff you put in it.
Yeah. So finding a place like at least the one that you're at now, you have that garage that you can use. That's also invaluable. Anytime you buy a piece of property as a snake person, if you could find something like that, man, that is,
Yeah, like my detached garage.
Yeah.
That I have here. Yeah. That's a great place. But the problem is I need something 5 times that size now. That's what my collection needs. And to build those numbers that you're putting out were exactly what I was coming across to building, building from scratch, about $140,000, and that's bare bones. That's
labor if labor or messing with permits or doing whatever you got to do.
I mean, you've got to get an architecture, an engineer, soil samples. I mean, it's like building a house. It's like building a house.
And didn't Corey say he had to like change the soil? Like something wasn't right with the soil, like for what he needed. I feel like he had to do something weird to it because it just like wasn't right for what he needed. And so many things I bet pop up.
Yeah, it depends. Like when you're laying that foundation, depending what the soil samples come back, it depends on how far you have to, and I know nothing about construction, so I'm just going on what I've been told, but the soil determines on how far, you have to put the rebar in that holds the foundation and just all this stuff that I had no idea. So luckily this place that we're looking at, foundation's already there. The brick's already there. It's, just the foundation and the external structure is 60% of the battle. So,
and you guys over there in Texas don't have basements, so
no, very, very rare to have a basement.
Right. So, what kind of are you looking forward to? Are you going to try to like set up a sink, all that good stuff in your room and make it all perfect?
Yeah, the only thing that my room doesn't have now that I really need is a sink, is a water source, because I literally have to fill.
You go back and forth?
I go back and forth I use like 3 or 5 gallon plastic, red gas cans that I just fill with water, and I bring them out into that room, and that's how I change water. So that's going to be the biggest, the biggest thing. And this will be cool because I'll be able to, I'm going to have a main room, and then I'm going to have like a baby room, and then I have a quarantine room. So, I'll be able to just, be able to get everything out of the house because I got snakes in the house now. I've got the room outside, and then my entire upstairs is filled. I've got a quarantine room up there. I use my office as the baby room. So it'll be nice to just get everything under one roof.
Right.
And not take any more house space. Which
you'll get there eventually, Bill. Don't worry.
Constant argument in this house. Someone keeps wanting.
You got a good 30 or 40 years to grow out of that building, and then they start coming in.
Yeah. My wife, Kim, is going to be ecstatic when the reptiles get out of the house. She hasn't had that in like 10 years,
Gosh.
As soon as
she has all the reptile people come over to the house too. There's a whole nother thing for the fest.
Yeah, that she doesn't mind as much.
Yeah, she likes people more than animals.
More than the snakes, unfortunately. I'm the opposite.
Now, how is that going to work with the people you talk about, like who've been helping you and everything? Are they still going to continue to help? Because Joe told me it's like an hour more north. Is that what you said?
Yeah. How far are you going to be from here?
About 45 minutes, and so it's going to be a little bit tougher. We've had some talks. I actually think both the guys that are over here every week are going to be able to, still make that trip. Maybe not as consistently, but yeah, that is probably the one big, negative to this move is, I got a couple guys that I really rely on and trust. And like when I go on vacation for, 3 days or 5 days, or I've been gone as long as 7 days, I just wouldn't be able to relax unless, I've got like Brian Phillips. He knows my collection as well as I do. And he just comes over and he just stays. He just stays the week here or 5 days or whatever. And so that's going to be the hardest part.
And I think what's interesting about who you have is that they are like real true blue snake people. It's not just someone who helps you every once in a while. Like they're also as
much into
snakes.
It. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. It's not like they're coming over to take care of the dogs and cats and would you please, change his water bowl.
Like that's pretty much it. But they're actual snake keepers who are.
Yeah. Super. Just been super lucky for sure.
Because that's been something that we've talked about a few times. Like how do we go about finding someone to help us? Or if we want to go on vacation ever, how do we find someone who we trust to be in here, who has the knowledge? So
lucky.
I mean, how'd you find your guys?
Gosh, it's been so long now. I think they've all been customers of mine, essentially. Like they've all, these are younger guys. These guys are like my son's age, so they've kind of been customers, and I've kind of been their mentor, and it's just something that's developed over a long time. Logan, who I talked about earlier on the show, I've known him, 15, 16 years now, and he was a customer. He came over, bought a snake. Actually, his wife did. His wife came over, bought him a snake for his Father's Day or something, and then we just developed that relationship that's gone on for a long, long time. Brian is the same way, just probably 5, 6, 7 years I've known him, and then got another young guy named Jose who's super enthusiastic, but much younger on the learning curve. He's still, he's trying to produce his first clutch of ball pythons. He's still trying to just get some snake knowledge. He's just thirsty for knowledge about any kind of snake. So, but the most important thing is they're reliable, they're trustworthy, and they, we're like family. Treat each other like family.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to come by. It's hard to come by.
And it's nice to know that if all goes bad, you can pay your employees in chondro babies.
Yeah, most of the transactions that go on over here have to do with babies and not dollars.
Yeah, we need to find some core snake folks. Where are they at? Come out of the woodwork.
Come on, there's no corn snake people in Philadelphia?
We just haven't found them. We haven't converted them yet.
Yeah. I don't know. We haven't found them yet. With the big facility and everything, are you going to get more into breeding feeders and things like that because you have the space?
I'll never do that.
Okay.
Never do that. Luckily, I've got some good rodent sources locally. I've got individual that breeds rodents, and I've got Big Cheese. I mean, you guys know that's close. And then, I like doing business with my friend Forrest Fanning, Cold Blooded Cafe. So yeah, I wouldn't get into the feeder business.
Do you have live shipments for, say, like ball python baby stuff like that, or even some picky animals?
That's where Big Cheese comes in, or this individual breeder that's local to me.
Gotcha.
So most of my stuff, 90%, I would say 90% of the stuff I have, that's including the ball pythons, babies, subadults, and adults, eat frozen. 90%.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is such a big deal and so much more convenient. And plus, I don't think people realize how big having a rodent supplier just is in general. I mean, having the opportunity to miss having one in. You can have a private breeder as well as a giant facility. Big Cheese produces a lot of rodents. So.
It's a great combination because I can pick and choose a little bit. And it's a great option to have. Didn't you guys have trouble there?
No, it's just easier.
Yeah,
we could really drive. Yeah, we could drive to Fort Worth and go pick it all up and not have to worry about shipping. And
because now you lose track of who's what and where, and then all of a sudden you're behind on your large pinkies, and then you order them, and then you gotta wait until the next Monday for them to ship.
You say that like we're not going through it right now.
I was trying to say like it happened before and not exactly right now, but yeah, pretty much exactly right now.
You're in the spot right now?
Yeah. And it sucks because we have lots of babies that have gotten 2 meals in, and we want to get that 3rd meal in them before our show this weekend.
But
we're waiting on...
Full disclosure, what I did was I took a large pinky. They're supposed to be having small pinkies. I took a large pinky and I cut it in half with scissors. And
is that the scissors that are in the bathroom right now? I touched those.
I mean, but it worked, guys. So, I mean, that's not the way to do things. But
did you cut it? Which way did you cut it in half? Lengthwise or crossways?
Oh, lengthwise through all the good stuff.
I just left the scissors right there on the bathroom counter where I interact with frequently.
What
What
were you gonna do? What were you gonna do with those scissors?
I was just touching them to move them out the way, but I wish I'd known what I was touching.
Every piece of anything could have been used to touch it. So
Just so
don't trust any utensil. Salad tongs, I don't know, butter knives,
pots, all things. You just use them and
pots.
You leave
don't
them.
Trust a pot.
You leave them in
No.
places. I feel like I need to put up signs like snake items do not belong here everywhere except for the snake room.
It wouldn't do any good. He'd still use them.
You're in a pinch, and you got to do what you got to do. You don't have.
I'm not judging you for doing it. I'm judging you for leaving the scissors in the bathroom.
I washed them off first. I didn't exactly put them. You
didn't put them through some.
You didn't sterilize them.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, I can't wait. In our next house, I want you to have a sink in your snake room. So I mean, even if it's like not a legit working sink, if it's like a big tub thing, we can. I don't know, rig into
in a basement. Yeah, if it had like a slop sink for
right. I can't wait to have all snake things not in my bathroom.
How long till that happens?
Who knows? I mean, there's ways he can do it not in the bathroom, but there's many snake breeders who have a big like Home Depot tub and thaw their food in that. But no, Joe just has no problem impeding on the rest of my life and still thaws them in the sink. And I know he doesn't clean the sink after. I mean, it's not like they're touching it, but the water there.
I actually lick the sink clean after, so that's
great. But like, why won't you put the tub and defrost them in that?
Do you keep your feeders in the same freezer as your meat and stuff?
Well, we don't eat frozen food because we're millennials. Millennials actually don't eat frozen foods.
So you don't have a freezer.
That was a bad joke.
No,
I know that's a lie because y'all lick ice cream.
Yes, we love that. He was trying to make a joke and it didn't work well. We have lots of frozen food. Our only divider is the rats are on the top and the food is on the bottom. And as I'm saying that, I feel like we should switch that.
And then there's like a 5-year-old bag of frozen shrimp in between in order to
But I think we should switch it. The food should go on the top shelf of the freezer, and the pinky should go on the bottom. Now that I'm saying it.
Just in case pinky particles are just falling.
Yeah, also because someone doesn't put them in freezer bags. You know the bags that Big Cheese comes in. He just like rolls them up and then puts them in the freezer. It doesn't.
But see, there's a difference of like, okay, keeping pinkies in your freezer versus like colossal rats, which is like what I have to have for the Borneos.
No, we're not doing that. It's mostly pinkies.
Like colossal rats. That's like having a dead cat in your freezer.
Yeah, I can't imagine opening the freezer to that. That's scary. Or like people who do rabbits and stuff like that. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. You got to have a separate freezer.
One day we'll do that with an actual.
Won't be a thing, but sink first.
I'm saying like one day, like we could just get a freezer. Really.
Where would we put a deep freezer now?
That's a good point. Why are we figuring out this stuff now?
Oh no, we're just trying to live Bill's life. And that's not gonna happen.
When you move back to Texas, things will be a lot easier.
A lot more space. Philly and space don't go together really.
No.
I mean, we're just trying to figure out our middle ground of how we can live effectively, efficiently in the right place with all the right things to where we could still keep snakes. And I don't think people realize really the long-term implications of having snakes, especially to the point where you're at like your own snake room. Then it's like you're handcuffed to that idea of you need at least one extra room no matter what you do, where you go.
And then breeding is just a whole nother level on top of that. Like you want to produce snakes and raise up the babies and do shows and stuff like that. That's tough. It's tough to do it.
And to be honest, like we're still at the stage of where we want to make our breeding worth it in order to pay for these extra rooms. So there is a little bit, more of that mentality, the fact that we need to, pay for the space that they're in.
Yeah, and that'll come. I mean, you guys will be successful doing it. A lot of people have done it and are doing it, and they're successful, and you guys will be successful too.
Each year, a little bit more. A little bit more.
That's the thing. It's like a low crawl through the mud in the pouring rain. You know, to get
Got to pay your dues. Everybody's got to pay their dues.
Like Tough Mudder. You know, the Tough Mudder. I feel like it's like Tough Mudder a lot, but when you get to the end, it's worth it.
Hopefully we'll have a medallion that says, you know, like you're 60 and a group of like 10 people respect you and you did your job. Have a good life.
10, more than 10, but yes, I get the.
Joe, you're not going to get a participation trophy. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, and I think that is kind of an important aspect of it, is that the people that you see who are doing it full time, man, they must have sacrificed to do that, you know, to live their, you know, dream in quotes.
You know, that's a good topic for conversation because I get asked that a lot, you know, like, oh man, you're so lucky. How did you, you know, have snakes become like your full-time thing? And I think that's really very, very rare. And I wouldn't even consider me one of those people. You know, I look at people that would be like your age or starting a family. And if you're able to have a reptile business and at the same time have a family and save money and do all that kind of stuff, that's a different level than what I'm doing. You know, what I'm doing right now is like, I've done that, you know, in a different career, and I've raised a family and I've got everybody off the payroll. And, you know, now it's not nearly, I'm not nearly dependent on the business as I would have been 20 years ago. So I think it's such a rare thing for somebody to say, yeah, I'm a full-time, you know, reptile breeder. I just think it's super rare.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've just been thinking of, maybe I'm going crazy, but I'm like thinking of how many, you know, shooting stars there are in a sense. Is that a weird way to put it? But, you know, people who are really hot and heavy for like 3 years and then all of a sudden they fade away. Or even the people who are, you know, like there's a finite time, it seems, for everyone.
Yeah.
Be a very
I think
way to look at it.
I think you're right. I mean, there's just, and I think it's especially harder for the newer, you know, for this generation versus like Bob Clark, you know, who people like that were really on, you know, cutting edge, like ground floor, you know, literally ground floor.
They built the industry from the ground up. Those guys, Eugene, him, Crutchfield, all those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, I think it's just harder now to try to, it can be done. I mean, you know, for sure it can be done, but I think it's just harder.
Yeah, but we get to sell snakes on the internet. That's fun.
That's true.
Boxes next day.
Bingo. And it doesn't have to be for everybody full time. It can mean that you don't have to get that second job, or it means you can go on vacation, you know, another time or two a year that you wouldn't have been able to afford to, you know, even if you keep your quote, your real job. I mean, you know, so I think there's a lot of advantages to doing it.
I think that we're even like at this point where I realize, oh, like, damn, like this would be a great second income if it wasn't like my 70.75% income. You know, if it was, if I had a full-time job where I actually tried at and did everything that I could and did this on the side, like how it would be impactful upon our lives.
Extra, yeah.
Right. Like it would be a lot more work.
Yeah, but when you're trying to make it your full, it doesn't feel as impactful right now.
But it is a vacation or that car payment for the year. You know, like you could pay your car off with it, you know, like.
Yeah. And, you know,
you definitely there for people.
You guys are still relatively young in developing your brand and your product and all that. I mean, you know, time is everything. It takes time. You know?
I'm just impatient.
Yeah. It's hard not to be.
I mean, yeah, you don't want to sit here on your hands all day and not do anything also, you know.
Right.
My time is coming. Just give me the time. I wait here. Pick me.
That voice.
That's God.
Oh, okay.
Duh.
Gotcha. Sorry.
I did buy a shirt today.
There you go.
Like business is through the roof. But it's also, I'm glad that we can have a community of people who just talk every, like there's 5, 6, 7 podcasts now. There's unlimited amounts of YouTube channels. There's people who are willing to come on and talk to us every week.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things to be thankful for in our hobby. So
yeah, absolutely. And you guys, you guys do a great job doing it. You're good at what you do. And so I have no doubt that just give it some time, be patient, just keep doing what you're doing. And I've got no doubt you guys are going to be successful.
Well, thank you. And it's something to where obviously you do it too. We're just hoping that all of this at the end of the day at least contributes to the community. You know what I mean? Like,
of course,
at least this is our blip in time, or like your blip in time, or, our generation's time to make an impact upon the hobby. Like, your hands are on the steering wheel of the green tree hobby. Like, that, right? Like, you have an effect. You have a very big effect on the green tree hobby. Like, you can make an impact, a long-lasting impact that people remember for a long time.
I hope so. I hope that's the case. I hope we have. It's hard to judge sometimes. Our show's been on like 6 or 7 years now, and when we started it, kind of like you guys, we had like a mission statement. Why are we going to do this? Why are we going to do this show? What's the angle here? And it was, it wasn't complicated. It was just dispel some myths about green tree pythons. And the way to do it was, at the time, we started with Buddy, who had been keeping chondros for 20 years, and me, who had been keeping them for 3 years. And it was kind of that, let's get a very experienced person and let's get a novice on, and then we'll get the guests on, and that way we'll be able to appeal to the very new green tree keepers, and then also to the seasoned veteran keepers. So,
and so showing that someone like you at that time, when you were still green in it, could be successful, and it was possible to take these steps, from someone like Buddy and learn it the right way and be successful with green tree pythons.
Absolutely. I was a ball python and carpet breeder, and, just you guys, I mean, think about how much you've learned by having guests on your show about so many different species. And I'm sure whether you've done it consciously or subconsciously, you have introduced, I promise you, techniques into your keeping and breeding that you would have no access to unless you had a bunch of different breeders on your show. And that's kind of the way it was for me.
And now you're the seasoned veteran.
I'm more seasoned than I was 7 years ago. That's for sure.
Do you consider yourself a veteran of it?
I consider myself, I'm like third generation chondro keeper. There was like the guys like Trooper and Eugene and Rico, and then there were second generation people like Buddy, and then I consider myself like third generation keeper.
And what do you see as the future of green tree python keeping, breeding?
I think they're going to get easier to keep. They're going to get easier to breed. More, years we go in captivity, and the more knowledge that's spread out, and the more myths that are dispelled. So I think that they're going to get easier to keep, easier to breed, and the community is going to continue to grow.
What is one myth that when you started your podcast, it was like, you feel like it was like a big prominent one that everyone was confused about, that is not a myth now? Does that exist?
The biggest myth that I came into the community with, and I didn't keep green trees for 10 years. I always wanted to, but I didn't keep them really for one reason. And I thought their temperament was, all of them was just nasty and defensive. And I don't, to this day, I don't like getting bit by snakes. I mean, there's some people that they get bit and they just go, oh, wow, that was a nasty one. I get bit, I like scream like a girl. Like, I don't like to get bit.
Yeah.
I don't like to get bit. It's like part of what we do, but, and I have yet to get bit by a green tree python, except for a baby.
No.
So Swear I've been keeping them 10 years and I've never been bit by anything other than a baby.
Do you just totally avoid the snake room at night? Or?
No way. I mean, even these things at night, the captive bred ones, if you just let them know they're not going to eat, you know, whether you give them a little spray or you tap them a little bit with a stick or something, you can get them out at night. I don't do that routinely, but I handle them all the time during the day. And so that was like the biggest myth that I came upon is these things, you can't handle them. They're very aggressive, very defensive. And then the other myth is that they're just hard to keep and they just die all the time. That's kind of the myths that I came into the hobby. And once I figured out quickly that that was not the case, then those were the things that we wanted to dispel.
So the temperament thing, do you have any idea, was that, say, non-U.S. captive born and bred individuals or certain locales, or any thoughts behind why you experience such well-mannered animals and other people experience different things?
I think it's two things. I think it's the imported animals, and I think even captive bred BIAC locality types are known to be a little bit more defensive, although that certainly isn't the case. I mean, I would say even the majority of captive bred BIACs. The problem is most people are introduced to green trees at shows, and the majority of those are not only imported, plucked out of the wild, but they're also BIACs. So that's a bad combination. And the majority of those are pretty freaking defensive. And I don't have any of those animals in my collection. Now, Patrick Holmes was over here and he deals with imported BIACs all the time. And, he'll tell you even the majority of his are relatively easy to handle. But he's a very experienced keeper,
Yeah, he's kept things like scrubs and things with more consequences.
Yeah, he has. And I saw his scar yesterday of I can't remember what maybe it was brettle, a big brettle that bit him. Yeah, tore him up pretty good. But I think the majority of it is just U.S. captive bred, non-BIAC locality types, and if you go to those, then I would say 95% of those animals are going to be docile, easy to handle, easy to keep. Just like the animal that I had out earlier, and then
you get a better view of it.
Oh yeah, now your internet connection's like 20 times better.
Yeah, it's so much better. Reason. Oh yeah, that looks amazing now.
This is a different one. Oh, this is the plague.
There you go.
This is the plague. So a sibling to the one that I had out earlier, but again,
yeah, it's like an olive drab, but with there's obviously black flecks coming in there, right. Red eyes.
Yeah, he's a lot more black in the light, but again, he's just a real. I mean, what a terrible temperament on this snake, right?
So scary, it's about to bite your head off.
I mean, I think it's also. Clearly this. You know how to work with them, also. I think if people don't know, conduct themselves.
You saw me pick him up. It wasn't rocket science. I just pulled the perch out and take him out. He's just docile. That's how the vast majority of them are.
Well, Bill, there's a common notion that you need to boop snoots, and that's how people usually approach animals these days. They pick them up, from the front, like exactly how you should.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's kind of my take on these ferocious animals.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't deserve the reputation most of the time.
And you're also not really shy about taking them out like that. They're not these bubble boys that people used to think they were, it seems.
Some chondros, and I think, 10 or 20 years ago, they deserved that reputation. They were more fragile. They, whether it was because they just came out of the wild and you're drastically changing their living conditions versus these things that are born in tubs and stay in tubs all their life. I think 20 years ago, they were a lot harder to take care of than they are now.
Oh,
So do you feel like is this a great time to be a chondro keeper / breeder? It seems that way.
I think so, and I think it's only going to get better. Like I said, I think, more people are being introduced to them. More people are having success breeding them. That means more of the captive bred stuff's going to be available on the market. That means more people are going to have good experiences with them, first time experiences, as opposed to somebody that buys one, an imported one, and it dies in 2 weeks after they've spent $250 on it and then $100 in vet bills, and then it dies, and I'm never going to get another green tree again. Who would? I wouldn't.
Right.
So,
yeah. I think for a long time, people were starting behind the 8 ball, and now you're finally kind of starting out on even ground. At least you get a fair shot at it.
You got more than a fair shot. I mean, you get a captive bred animal from a reputable breeder, and I have never had a bad experience as a seller. I've known of one of my animals that died. I take that back. 2 of the animals that I've produced that died, it's always been like a year later. And, in those cases, things just happen. It wasn't anybody's fault. They just died. But that's far better odds than go to a show and pick up, an animal, and you've got about a 10% chance or 20% chance of it living.
It's also, you may not get even good information from the person who's selling it.
Exactly. Even if the animal's decent, the person's not going to provide support in most of the cases.
Yeah. So, I mean, is that really what separates, getting a U.S. captive born and bred? Obviously, it's more expensive, but is it just like the hands-on experience? Plus, I mean, I feel like it's like a ticket into the chondro community. Like, you get to talk to Bill, and you're like, oh, please help. And, like, that's invaluable for a beginner.
I think the animal, truthfully, is more important than the support, because if you get the right animal, you don't, 95% of the time, you don't need any support. You just, put it in the right cage and it's going to thrive. I think getting the right animal is more important than the source, but I think they're both important.
Speaking of shows and everything, I'm sure I've asked you this, but are we going to see you at Tinley?
It's looking very, very good. I had another commitment that I thought was going to take me away the same weekend, but I'm saying 95% sure that I'll be there now.
Yay!
Yes. There's always a lack of green trees / there's some Morelia guys up there, but there's definitely Ian was there, but that's about it for green tree guys.
I think I know Gary's going to be there. Gary Shavino is going to be there. Marshall Mendez just booked his
guys that you can't avoid their names in the green tree community, and I know nothing about them and haven't met them. So
we're gonna change that.
All right, great.
We're gonna change that. They're both great guys. I think there's a very good chance Buddy's going to come as well. So yeah, we'll change that.
Presentation of GTP people there.
We got to represent.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, Bill, our always final question: if someone wants to reach out to you, what is the best way they can get in touch with you?
I think probably Facebook. I post a lot more under just my name, Bill Stegall, than I do. I've got Phoenix Reptiles on Facebook. So I would just go Bill Stegall on Facebook or Phoenix Reptiles on Instagram, or my website, phoenixreptiles.net, or ESPN.
.net. Changing it up.
That's old school.
So there's the plague, there's the sickness. What's the next?
What disease type thing?
Disease?
Yeah, the disease. Is that going to be the next one?
I just showed you epidemic.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. Epidemic was the first snake. Oh, and I've got.
If you still have it, because we didn't get to see it the first time. So then epidemic, what could we do?
Polio.
That's pretty specific. Lou Gehrig's.
Okay, I've got a name that I want you to look up, and I want any of the listeners to look up. This is going to be, if I ever produce a badass female, I'm going to name her Dyspareunia.
Okay. I'm definitely
DYSPARUNIA.
Computer is not liking me. Dyspurina.
There you go.
Urnia.
Just Perunia. Oh, really, Bill? How many times do you want to explain that name to people in the future?
I'm never gonna explain it. I'm just gonna tell them to look it up.
I like though that we are coming roundabout, like full circle to gynecology. It fits in very nicely with this episode.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
Well, it's deep pressure on the cervix. Well, that's something.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that sounds like a badass female situation.
Doesn't it? I mean,
hopefully she doesn't prolapse. I don't know what the ramifications are, but
yeah,
that's a good point. I'm going to continue to go with the disease like states. I might do like pandemic.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll come up with some. I'll keep it going. I'll come up with some good stuff.
That's awesome.
There you go. Now you just gotta produce the snakes to back it up. You know. Now you just gotta produce.
I've got 15 sickness babies in my office right now, getting big. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. These things look badass.
Back to his mother.
No, this was sickness to the blue cyclops.
Oh. So what have you gotten out of that pairing previously?
That's the first time the sickness has ever reproduced.
I knew that.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the sickness's first clutch. These animals are like 4 months old now.
Ooh, so
they look awesome. They look incredible. Yeah.
How many red Neos?
They were all red.
Ooh, my favorite.
There you go.
They were all red, and I've got them. They're going all over the world. I sold 6. I've got one going to Canada, one going to Japan, one going to Italy, and then the other 3 are staying in the U.S.
Okay, I want to ask so many questions about that, but
how
it's
Bill is
2 hours.
Everywhere.
But let's acknowledge the paper. I just feel like the paperwork for that seems very.
Well, we didn't even talk the fact that he sold one to an NFL football player this year.
Yeah, that was last year.
That was last. See,
I'm not counting.
Your dates right,
but it still
is a big thing. I feel like we talked about it before. I don't know. We have talked about it personally. We definitely talked about it personally. Holy shit, Bill did that, and it's like, oh, holy shit, Bill did this, and there's lots of holy shit Bill did in our house.
Well, Bill's old, so Bill deserves that kind of shit.
You want to be more like Bill.
You'll be talking like me when you're old too. But yeah, like far as the importing, I don't even know. All I know is I have to get the snakes to New York. And then the buyers are taking care of it from there.
Interesting. Well, thank you, Bill, for coming on tonight and having a great gynecology podcast with us with some snakes.
Thank you for coming to the Snork's
sprinkled in.
Snork's Nest.
Yes, the Snork's Nest. I can't say that. Wait, shoot, I forgot how we end these things. Thank you, everyone.
I don't usually drink whiskey during this, but it's really.
I couldn't drink it. It was gross tonight to me.
I noticed that, Joe. Yeah, he's stepping up. I like it.
It's because we're out of beer. Move. It was by habit. Okay. And Joe had to ship out a snake before the podcast, so we didn't get to go through anything. But thank you, everyone, for watching and listening and bearing with us during this StreamYard stuff. It seemed to work out well. We will actually be doing another podcast tomorrow. It's a double feature week. Yay for my life. I shouldn't say that. I mean, I'm excited to have 2.
Like, sorry. Yes, we have 2.
Sorry. I'm so excited to have 2. I'm just exhausted already. And it's only Monday.
Well, we'll bring some more feminine biologists.
I don't want to talk about more gynecology with her. I don't know her.
Oh God, I wasn't implying that.
You said that. You said feminine.
Well, I'm saying it will be very
feminine
different.
levels? What does that mean? Let's acknowledge that. Feminine levels.
We're used to having men on. And now
I am happy it's a girl.
If you need a consult tomorrow, just let me know.
Bring it in. But yes, we are having another one. It is a girl. We will be here. What?
It is a girl.
It sounds like I'm talking about a baby. We're having another one. It's a girl.
We've
It's
had
a woman.
like 100 so far. Yeah, it is a woman. It is a
woman. I
full-grown
should
woman.
say that she is a full-grown woman.
Yeah. Disparaging.
Wow.
She doesn't listen. Thank God. At least she won't listen in one day.
Yeah, she won't listen to this till after she's on
This is
tomorrow.
awkward, but everyone knows.
They don't know who she is.
Perfect.
But yeah, so we will see you guys.
Yo, James Lewis said Tracy Barker.
Yeah.
Yeah, we broke it open. No,
You're having Tracy Barker on?
No.
Yeah.
No, we would not be talking
No.
about like this.
Sorry. We shouldn't have even anything.
Well, we got everyone excited. Now they're gonna come back and watch tomorrow. And hopefully it goes as well.
It's
using
Terry
StreamYard.
Irwin, guys. You got us. That's it. Her and Bindi will be here.
Both. And Benny's gonna talk about her new engagement.
Yeah, naturally.
Actually,
PortCityPythons.com.
oh gosh, yeah. So if you want to see us tomorrow, catch us back here on YouTube, Port City Pythons, and then all the social medias. And if you're in the Howard or Grace, Maryland area this weekend, come see us at the show.
I don't even think I've been to Maryland, let alone been to the show in Maryland. So
this will be a lot of firsts.
glad to be there.
Good luck.
Yes.
It is the home of Howard Redding, so I think I'll be in good
Oh, no.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you guys. It is almost 10:30. I gotta go to bed. I'll talk to you and see everyone later.
Bill, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
You bet, guys. Good night.
Night.
There's too many buttons after
You
we're
press
supposed to
things.